Okay, we are live. This is Keith Niebuhr and Corey Bender of Gators Online. We're talking about a new big commitment on Saturday for the Florida Gators. That's four-star quarterback Will Griffin of Tampa Jesuit. He's a guy that both myself and Corey have gotten to see on multiple occasions. So we're going to break down what type of player we think the Florida Gators are getting. But first off, the news of the day. Four-star quarterback Will Griffin has committed to the Florida Gators. He did it during a Saturday unofficial visit to Gainesville. And let's go over some of his numbers real quick here, Corey. He's the number 8 quarterback in the 2026 class. So that means he's a rising junior, number 8 quarterback overall in the country, number 104 overall player in the country for that rising junior class. He's consistently been a 4-star since the rankings came out. He's been a winner at Tampa Jesuit, one of the better programs in the state of Florida, but also one of the more organized programs in the state of Florida. They just do a tremendous job there. He's also an outstanding student, I should point out. His father attended the University of Florida, Corey, and he's been growing up, going to the games, painting his face orange and blue. If ever anyone was destined to be a Florida Gator, Corey, is it this guy?
Yeah, I thought it was between him and Brady Hart, the other quarterback out of Cocoa. But with Will Griffin, he was offered almost a year ago. So you obviously knew he was a top target for Billy Napier. He's been on campus a handful of times. He's seen everything Florida has to offer. And like you said, Keith, he grew up a fan. So I think it was a matter of time. He was looking at other schools, really strong offer sheet. Could have really almost went anywhere in the country. But, Florida's not far from home, very familiar with the program, great relationship with Ryan O'Hara and Billy Napier just to sweeten it up even more. So I think, like you said, I think we all kind of expected him to be in Florida's class at some point. I thought it would actually be later in the year, but, like you said, he already knew and decided, hey, let's get this thing started.
And if that's where you want to be, you go ahead and make the decision. The quarterback dominoes are starting to fall. In fact, earlier in the day, 4-star 2026 quarterback Noah Grubbs, another Florida target, committed to Notre Dame. And you mentioned Brady Hart. That's a 2026 4-star quarterback from Cocoa High School. His dad played baseball for the Gators, Alex Hart. His mother also attended the University of Florida. He loved Notre Dame, but it was kind of a first-in-the-boat situation, and Noah Grubbs took that spot. Now Brady Hart's still looking, and Florida had offered him. You have Dia Bell down at American Heritage in Plantation, Florida, but he'd been trending away from the Gators. So Florida had to push for this to happen. The Gators did push for Will Griffin. Will Griffin liked the push, and it had really been rumored for, 5 or 6 weeks, I guess, that this was on the verge of happening. In fact, we had actually been tipped off that he might be a silent commit as recently as late April, or as early as late April. Checked in with his father, denied that was the case. But the tea leaves were starting to kind of read Florida at that point as well. But again, a diehard Florida Gator, that's what you want. He's going to live and breathe. Everything he does is going to be to help better that program. He's a weight room warrior. If you've not seen Will Griffin, he's listed at 6'2.5", 225 pounds. A friend of mine works at Tampa Jesuit and said the day Will Griffin arrived on campus as either an 8th or 9th grader, people thought, who's that senior? He was already that physically mature, physically developed. There's not many quarterbacks built like him, quite frankly. Extremely muscular upper body, extremely muscular lower body. He can throw the ball, but he can also run you over. Does that sound familiar? Now, he's not going to run it like Tim Tebow did, but he can run. And he can run you over. His private quarterback coach is also his high school's quarterback coach. Same guy, works with them during the season and off the season. That's a guy named Jeff Carlson, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer backup quarterback. He might have even started some games, but a former NFL quarterback. He's been with them since Will was a little kid, and now he's the QB coach and the offensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken, at Tampa Jesuit. Corey, this is a guy that physically the tools are there. Would you agree? You saw him play last fall, we should point out. What did you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's funny you mentioned the Tim Tebow thing, and obviously we're not comparing him at all as far as his skill set, but I did just put that in my article. His body frame and the way he runs will remind people kind of Tim Tebow was. He's, like you said, 6'3", 225 pounds. He's not a blazer, Will Griffin, but obviously he's athletic enough to keep plays alive. He's a big kid, and like you said, Keith, he'll put his shoulder down. He'll make you pay if you don't wrap up. And I think when you mix that in with his leadership, his maturity, he kind of does have that kind of vibe about him as far as that leadership, kind of how Tim was at high school. But, when I watch his game, Keith, I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is his touch, downfield. I think his ball placement, whether it's running outside the pocket or whether he's set in the pocket with good base underneath him. He does a good job of throwing his receivers open. He throws a very catchable ball. But you mix that in with his size. Yeah, I think it's no surprise On3 and a lot of these other recruiting services are so high on him early on.
He's got a little bit of a unique throwing motion, but it's funny because I watched of all things, I watched some college golf in the last week, Corey. And you go out, you think off to the driving range like I'm at, 8 days a week, and you think the guys that are the best players in the world have these cookie cutter swings. Everything's perfect. But then you watch the best players from Jim Furyk to Tiger Woods to Jack Nicklaus. They all have different and unique swings, and all quarterbacks have unique and different throwing motions. And Will Griffin has a unique throwing motion. I wouldn't even know how to describe it. I think when people see it, they'll know what I'm talking about. It's
almost like a short arm. It comes out quick. Yeah. It doesn't extend as much, but it gets there quickly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's got a solid arm, and he's accurate. And in fact, let's look at his accuracy because it's really improved. Now, he was starting as an 8th grader. I mean, this is a guy that was a young starter and really took his lumps, 2,400 yards as an 8th grader on the varsity, and he threw for 2,400 yards. As a freshman, he came in and at Jesuit and completed 57% of his passes for 1,600 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Now, last year, those numbers pretty much doubled. He completed 67% of his passes. Now, that is very good at the high school level. In fact, Tramel Jones, a 2025 quarterback that Florida's recruiting that we talk about often, and he's known for his accuracy. He doesn't even approach this accuracy, this completion percentage. So that should give you an idea. 3,400 yards, 67.6 completion percentage, 14 yards per completion, I believe, 261 yards passing a game. That means he was essentially the offense. Now, they have a running back, Justin Thurman. I believe he's still committed to Notre Dame, but the offense runs through this young man, Will Griffin. 34 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That's not a low number of interceptions, but it's not high either. In fact, not to compare it to Danny Werfel, another Florida Heisman Trophy winner, but I believe he might have thrown 13 interceptions in his Heisman Trophy season. So, look, continue working on making the right decisions, and that interception number comes down. And obviously, we weren't at every game. There could be tip passes. It could have been in the rain, but 34 touchdowns to 10 interceptions is not bad. 2.5 touchdown passes a game. The guy gets it done, and he's going to bring not only the orange and blue blood coursing through his veins, being a diehard Gator, Corey. This is a guy that understands how to win on game day. He's a guy that is like Tim Tebow in the weight room. He is not going to so much as lose a push-up or sit-up contest to anyone. He is going to be a demanding teammate, which is what you want from the quarterback position, Corey.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And like you said, I mean, battle test is the first thing that comes to mind with this kid. I mean, I know we say he started 8th grade. He was even on varsity as a 7th grader at Northside Christian, saw a little bit of time, but he's like, that says a lot too. I know Northside Christian isn't the program that Tampa Jesuit is, but obviously in the Tampa Bay area, they've had talent come out of there, and that says a lot about putting a 7th grader on varsity and at least giving him some time. But yeah, when you see him on Friday nights, I think the other thing too, Keith, is just his confidence and his poise. You see on his film, there's a lot of big moments on his film where you see the crowd stand up, a big touchdown late in the 4th quarter. He's not hesitant in his delivery. He just gets the ball out. He believes that he's going to throw that pass. And I think that's so key for a young quarterback. He's confident in his own ability. And the other thing too, man, is his arm strength. I know we touched on it earlier, but there's not many kids in that 26 class who extend the field like he does, and probably as much as he does based off what I've seen. And most of the time it's with good ball placement. So I like everything about this kid, man. I watched his film early on, and then obviously today I went back and watched it. It was even more intrigued. So I think, like you said, Keith, I feel like just his leadership and just everything combined is a total package for what Florida wants. And I know a lot of fans kind of frown at the whole, hey, it's my dream school, and I love Florida as a kid. I think that matters when you're already committed, though. It's that much harder to get you away from that program because obviously the love you have for it. And I'm excited. I think this is a guy that, someone asked me, do I think he'll stick? I think he does, but we'll see how it all plays out with 2 years left.
His team went 10-3 last year, challenging schedule. One of the losses was to, I believe, the eventual state champ, the team that beat Jacksonville Mandarin and quarterback Tramel Jones in the final, Miami Columbus. Another loss was to Treasure Coast. And then the final loss to a solid Tampa Gaither team, I believe in the 3rd round of the playoffs. They had actually beaten Gaither during the regular season. So Jesuit, the one thing we know about Tampa Jesuit, Corey and I have been doing this a long time, They play one of the better schedules in the state year in and year out. Now he has some of the better teammates around. This is a team that's always going to have guys, and that's okay. But he does a lot of good things. And Corey, we need to point one other thing out. We'll get to a couple questions here. Hand size. This guy has a hand size, if I'm not mistaken, in the 10.8, 10 inches, 8/10 of an inch range. Whatever. He's got enormous hands. When you shake his hand engulfs your hand. Now, you say that doesn't matter. Well, why do you think Danny Werfel struggled in the NFL? He had smaller hands. Steve Spurrier, in fact, did not have giant hands. Jake Fromm, very good player at the University of Georgia, championship level quarterback, didn't have big hands. This guy's got enormous hands. And Josh Allen, when you think of big hands in the NFL, you think of Josh Allen, right? And so already, I believe Will Griffin's hand size as a 17, I think he's 17 now, would be among the largest in the NFL. So that's important. You got to be able to throw in all conditions. Listen, there's 2 new teams in the SEC, Corey, and Florida's going to have to go to these places at some point. We don't know how the rotational schedule is going to work, but we know it gets cold and windy in Lexington. We know it gets really cold in Columbia, Missouri. It gets windy in Austin, Texas, and it gets cold in Norman, Oklahoma. You've got to be able to throw in all conditions, right? And that's where having a big hand can help you. Who had a big hand? Eric Kresser. Now, he never beat out Danny Werfel, but he ended up transferring to Marshall and played in the NFL for a long time with those big old hands that our boy Eric Kresser, my guy's got. So he's got a lot of things working in his favor. And then, Corey, we need to also point out this highly intelligent young guy. Look, there's a lot to like. Probably sounds like we're gushing. We don't know. We love Will to death as a person. We don't know whether he's going to make it or not as a quarterback. We don't know. Nobody knows that, okay? But what we know is what we've seen so far, and we like everything we've seen so far, both on the field and off, and that is important. He is seems to be again, we never really know these people, so sometimes you don't want to go too far, but he seems to be a highly intelligent young guy, a very affable young guy. When he walks in a room, he commands the attention of people in the room. He is an alpha male with an incredibly affable personality. That's the kind of guy you want leading your team. Other guys will fall in line behind him. It's very important, Corey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, Keith, the maturity level, talking to that kid, you would think you're talking to a first-year kid in college. I mean, even a senior, let alone. So when you talk to him, and I think having those traits is at the most important position. I feel like you said, the way his confidence, his poise, he makes people around him better. You can kind of see him when you watch him with other recruits. Like you say, he's a big kid. He carries himself well. Everything about him, when you see Will Griffin, screams Power 4 Division I recruit, just the way on and off the field. And say it one more time.
Go ahead, Corey.
Well, I was just going to say, too, and the one other thing, too, we talk about his on-field and Tampa Jesuit, their tough schedule, everything. And we're only, like you said, it sounds like we're gushing, but it's hard to, it's a sophomore film, and that's kind of hard. It's hard. You watch his film. He has some better film than some seniors I've seen in years past. Not comparing him to anyone, but I think overall, he's only getting better and better, and he has obviously the schedule and resume, going for him.
Let me apologize to Corey for cutting him off. I do that all the time.
No, you're good, man.
I'm ahead of myself. All right, so Ray Pope saying, hey, compare him to Noah Grubbs. That's the 4-star QB who committed to Notre Dame today. And Ali, I hope I don't know how to Salt, says compare him also to Brady Hart. Corey, I'll let you do that. You're more of the evaluator. Just real quick in a nutshell, comparing him to Noah Grubbs, the Notre Dame commit, and Brady Hart, who is a guy with Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State type offers. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Noah Grubbs is obviously – I think he's one of the guys I'm very high on. I think Will Griffin overall is the most physically imposing of them all, the strongest. I think – he doesn't say college ready as a sophomore, but physically he's going to be one of those guys that from that aspect will be ready. I think Noah Grubbs might have the highest ceiling among the three. I definitely like him a lot. I think he could be a star at Notre Dame. Brady Hart I like too a lot. I think, he has the size. He's going to take a little bit of time to fill out. Obviously, same kind of thing with Will as far as his passing motion, his delivery. I think I have Hart behind those two. I kind of have those as my third if I had to pick between the three. But I think overall the highest ceiling is Grubbs. But I think physically imposing, man, to maybe college ready, it probably has to be our guy, Will Griffin.
We'll get to a couple comments and a few questions, and then we'll get going. This is just a rapid reaction type video. Alvaro is very excited. I think a lot of people are. Hopefully it'll be appealing to other recruits. It usually is, but every kid sort of still does what they think is best for them. But yes, it will be an attention getter. Hub City Baby says, is he 5-star caliber? Corey, I don't know. I mean, we need to see his junior season first before we start thinking about 5-star. Want to see more strength from the arm. Want to see him cut down on the interceptions. Physically, it seems like it's all there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that 100%.
Okay. A lot of comments. Everybody seems to be pretty excited. Want to get some of these in here. I think that might be about it. But Corey, this is look, this is a big day for the Florida Gators. Now, this is they still need a quarterback in the 2025 class. Still working on Tramel Jones, trying to flip him from FSU. Still working on Keelan Russell, an SMU commit, who's also visiting Alabama and Oregon and maybe Texas offer. So that's going to be a tough one. You've got Antoine Hill, who's on campus this weekend for an official visit. But Memphis likes him a lot and has told him, hey, you can probably start in year one. So 2025, finding that 2025 quarterback is going to be a challenge. I think maybe the best shot with actually Tramel Jones, maybe flipping him from FSU, but that even won't be easy. But in the meantime, Florida now has its 2026 guy. Could they take a second quarterback in the 2026 class? It's possible. You just can't predict future attrition, who you'll go out and get in the portal, what kind of depth you can bring in. How does DJ Lagway play? I mean, there's so many unknowns. But for today, Will Griffin, big news. He's a Florida Gator. For Corey Bender, I am Keith Niebuhr. This is Talking Gators Recruiting, the Rapid Reaction Edition. And go to gatorsonline.com for more great content. We've got a ton of stuff from this weekend's huge official visit lineup in Gainesville, 14 official visitors. We've had a running message board thread that's got, 15,000 views already with a ton of intel about who's sitting with who at dinner, which recruits Billy Napier's spending time with. We've had updates on the wide receiver board. Who are they surging with? Who might be slipping? We also have information on Friday Night Lights, Florida's famed Friday Night Lights. What's the future hold? We got some real intel on that today. Right now, for the YouTube subscribers, if you use code UF1, you get 2 months of access to gatorsonline.com for $1. UF code 1 right below, 2 months for $1. You can't beat it. All right, Corey, I appreciate you stopping by, guys, and we'll do it again soon. Take care, everybody.